do. All right, that all looks good. All right. It's Tuesday, October 28th, 2025. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geek Nights. Tonight, we are going to talk about messing up the rules. In games, not necessarily in real life, but I don't know. All right. Oh, I didn't even think. Do we have an opening bit? I don't think our Halloween party was exciting enough to talk about our Geek Nights.
Hold on. Rangers are terrible.
Oh, the Rangers are terrible.
Spanish lesson. Halloween.
My one coworker friend who cares a lot about the Rangers, I passed him in the hall today, and he doesn't. Usually, he comes over to my dad like he wants to talk Rangers all the time, like he's really into hockey. But today, we hadn't talked in like 2 weeks, and of course, the Rangers have played like some of the worst hockey I've seen in the last 2 weeks. So
Get used to it.
So I pass him, and he sees me, and I see him, and we're walking toward each other, and all he says is, and I'm quoting him exactly, "To shreds, you say."
The Spanish teacher was like, he's in Argentina, and he's like, oh, the election was so bad. He's like, if the next election in 2 years, if this guy wins again, I'm gonna move to Spain.
See, it's happening everywhere. This problem.
He's like, I'm like, you can move to Spain so easily. He's like, yeah, I have an Italian passport. I can just go to Europe.
I get a lot of coworkers like that who they have a cluster of passports where they can just trivially pick up and move to another country if they want to. Yep. The American passport is really great for traveling, at least for now, but it's not great for moving.
Quality is decreasing.
Quality
is still up there, only because it's mostly because other passports are so bad, not because.
Yep. All right. I guess we can just dive into the news. I didn't really have a big opening bit.
I've been inside.
Yeah,
Clean it.
I got front bits that are not really opening bit. All right, let's dive into the news. Put a little marker here. So, of course, we've skipped a bunch of shows, so there's tons and tons of gaming news, and usually we just say, fuck it, and we just talk about whatever happened in the last 48 hours when we do a Geek Nights. But this first news, I think, is definitely worth talking about, despite being about a month old. EA, the game
Electronic
in which...
Arts that's been around for a long time and has published and developed many, many big-time important games...
Yep. The game in which it is in has been acquired by evil private equity in a $50 billion deal that I'm not giving investment advice. I'm not a registered investment advisor. However, this deal is something that you've heard us talk about on Geek Nights before, a leveraged buyout, very similar to how Toys R Us was gutted and destroyed. Just putting that out there. Similar structure.
Yep. So yeah, the people who bought it, are gonna first make it do, the most, whatever gets them the most short-term gains, right? Focusing only on gambling games and probably not gambling themselves on big AAA titles with high budgets.
Yep.
Rushing things to market that are unfinished. Doing loot boxes and whatever scam they can do to milk any gamer customer they have.
Yep. I think it's fair to say that every property under the EA umbrella is going to turn to shit at a fast pace, and you should just write those games off. Like, there's no coming back from this.
Right. And it's like, you might be thinking, it's like, well, EA early in its days had some games, right? Mule, one of the earliest EA games.
What was the last EA game that I, Rim of Geek Nights, enjoyed?
I don't know. EA Sports games were good for a time.
I mean, right? I really liked the sports game I played the most was probably NHL 97.
Right. You also have to consider that, EA, even though there are games that they didn't necessarily make, that they have bought, right?
Mass Effect, Need for Speed, The Sims.
Right. Well, all Maxis games, right? Ever,
BioWare,
basically.
Criterion Games, Motive Studio, Respawn.
Yeah,
There's
so
a
many
lot.
games that count as EA, just because they bought them or acquired them, or a bunch of Star Wars games, all kinds of stuff.
Yep. Now, a few things that could be happening here, because who will own it now is Silver Lake Partners. And if that name doesn't ring a bell, it should. That is Saudi Arabia's public investment fund. They previously already owned 10% of EA. And another group I've never heard of called Affinity Partners. But Silver Lake and Saudi money does imply a couple of things, because there's two ways this could go, in my personal opinion, on a high level. Either this will milk EA property for as much money as possible, leaving a withered husk, or it would be used, or it'll be used as yet another entertainment washing of the Saudi regime's interests.
Yeah, probably both.
Probably both.
I think the thing I didn't realize about private equity till recently, right? Well, things I already knew about private equity, right? Is that you buy something, you take it off the market, you wring it dry, right? To line your own pockets, right? You put the company in debt to yourself and all kinds of shenanigans.
Leverage buyouts are, in my personal opinion, a fucking scam that should be illegal.
Should be, if you're designing a board game with a capitalism, like a train game, this would be illegal.
Oh my God, we should make an 18xx game with leverage buyouts.
Yeah, 18x. I think it would be a good idea to make one 18xx game that just lets you do all sorts of shenanigans, like all the stuff that the other ones you can't do. It's like, no, you can do anything in this, and it's just all about finding the cheatiest, evil which one is the worst mechanism in and it's not meant to be a good game.
Actually, though, the question of which one is the worst mechanism, I have been reading a long, dense examination of the history of the East India companies, and all corporations,
colonialism is up there,
will naturally move toward having their own armies and occupying nations.
Yeah, of course. Anyway, so that's one bad thing, the wringing dry, right? When you take a company private, it now no longer needs to report its finances, at least publicly, right? So we don't know, right now, before we knew EA's doing good, they're doing bad because they're a public company.
Now, on one hand, private,
we see the annual reports.
But on one hand, a private company has one actually good benefit that's possible, in that if a company is public, it has a fiduciary duty to its shareholders to generate profits for them. So shareholders can force companies that are planning long-term to do short-term fucked up things for their own profit, and they can't really resist that unless they have majority shareholders who aren't evil. So private companies are not beholden to that and can do whatever they want.
Assuming the owners are, normal.
Yeah, Raymond Scott Co. could do whatever it wanted. We could just say, no, we won't do business with fascists. But a public company could be forced by its shareholders to do business with fascists.
Yeah, 51% of the shareholders want something, and the company says no. The CEO and the board members won't do it. It's those at the next board election, they just vote 51% of the board members to be people who want to do the bad thing, and then they fire the CEO and hire a CEO that will do the bad thing, and then the bad thing happens.
So in this case, it's the negative outcome because it's fascists. I figured out who Affinity Partners are. That is Jared Kushner's company that is funded by Israeli and Saudi money, and it's a right-wing Trump machine for money laundering and scams. In my unexpert, naive opinion.
The other thing that I didn't realize till more recently is that, let's say there's companies that are, the wealth inequality, right? A company, and especially a casino, which EA is sort of a company casino.
Yep.
I guess all casinos are companies. Not all companies are casinos, but a company, especially a casino, is just a machine that hoovers up money from poor people of lesser means, and gives it to a few people who own the company.
The Harvard class I'm taking now actually has a whole unit on this, and they call it in the class the wealth siphon.
Right. And so the only way money goes back down from the company down back to people is if jobs exist and they have to pay labor, right?
Yep.
It's the only way money goes back down. But as long as a company is hoovering up more than it's paying the laborers and others, wealth inequality just happens by companies existing.
Because companies naturally want to pay labor $0, right. And you know what that looks like.
If a company is public right, you can just buy, anyone who has money can just buy shares, then at least people who have some means, right? Not necessarily, obviously poor people can't afford to buy shares in anything.
Yeah.
They got to use their money to buy food. But at least when a company's public, people of middle class means that hardly exist anymore can buy some shares in a company, and some of the hoovering goes not back down to the bottom where it needs to go, but back down to the middle.
Now,
right?
You want to get into Marxism and dialectic materialism and all that. The class of people that benefit from that the most are the petty bourgeoisie, which includes people like you and me.
That's right. The thing is, when a company goes private, if the company is failing and dies, it's like, well, society loses because the value the company was creating when it existed. It's like we don't even have that anymore,
yep.
right? It's like, it's like, yeah, it was hoovering up money, but it was making video games. Now that's gone, right? If the company succeeds after it's been taken private, well, what actually happens is 100% of that money that's hoovered up go to these private owners, and even the petty bourgeoisie cannot get it back by buying shares because it's private. It's not in the public market.
Yep.
You're not getting that in your index funds.
You want to learn about that?
Whatever.
Well, there are moves to let you do that kind of shit and invest your 401k in private equity.
Right, but the problem is, okay, we'll let you petty bourgeoisie get a piece of the private equity. We'll let you buy some shares in these private companies. It's like, you mean the companies that have no public annual reports that I should just be gambling on based on nothing?
And
it's
thus, that's fundamental
crazy.
problem.
If you're not mega rich, it's crazy to invest in private equity because you might just be buying Toys R Us 1 minute before it goes away, and you're just a chump.
It's even worse than that because private companies like this are often fronts for influence campaigns and shenanigans, not even necessarily criminal ones, but in this case, this is Trump and Saudi Arabia backed, meaning EA is now a front for Donald Trump.
Yeah.
So
anyway,
they can use that to try to influence public opinion. They might have a company that makes money and funnel that money into propaganda campaigns via their properties. Like, I think you should boycott all EA properties immediately.
I mean, I haven't bought any EA properties in a long time. What's the last EA thing, right, that I've actually bought?
Yeah.
What year was it? I'm looking at, all right, so...
List of Electronic Arts games, 2020 to present. Let's see.
Hasbro Family Game Night. Didn't buy that.
I have not played a single.
Rock Band, I guess. Technically, they own that. I didn't know if they owned it when it came out, but I did. Oh, no, I did not Rock Band, but Guitar Hero. Do they own that?
I haven't played Guitar Hero in over a decade. So.
But I'm saying it's like that's the last, I guess some people are playing a new Battlefield that came out, right?
Yeah. All right, let's look at EA games between 2010 and 2019. Have I played any of these? Spore? Well, I didn't play Spore. No. So I'm already boycotting EA.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even remember any EA game that I have.
Yeah, but honestly, I would just say directly, because of who owns EA now, it is unethical to give EA any money under any circumstances.
I got bad news for you. They own a lot of things. They own things you're probably a customer of and you just don't know it.
So there's no ethical consumption under capitalism. But two, if it was just Silver Lake, that is one side of a bad coin. But if it's also Trump... That is
Trump. Go look at the list of things Trump owns and try to avoid all of them. You're probably already a customer of several and don't even know.
Yep, but you got to avoid them where you can. So you got to fuck over EA as hard as possible. Like, make sure
you'll just be growing your own seeds and your own.
I mean, I play mostly indie games made by trans furries at this point. So
yeah, basically.
So speaking of which, not really in news, but I know I keep hinting at this VR stuff we're doing and we've actually made a lot of progress. So I can sort of review VRChat as a game. because we've been using it a lot.
It's kind of hard to review a thing. It's more a platform than a game, right? It's
it'd be in the same. It'd be in the same
even Fortnite isn't a single game now.
Yeah, but you can still review it in terms of its like its user experience, its mechanics, like what it allows. And I got to say, having used VRChat a lot, it is actually progressing way faster than I thought it was. It is a very stable, solid VR platform right now. And I think the things people are doing inside of VRChat are more compelling than any commercial game that has ever been released in VR, including Half-Life Alyx. Like,
I mean, there's not that much competition.
There aren't, but like I've played every like significant VR game, and there are some really good games, but
that's like saying I've played every, like Virtual Boy game, right?
No, there are 10-ish like S tier single player VR game experiences, but the primary value of VR technology today, one, all the consumer stuff is just garbage. Like all this low tier, like MetaQuest 2 or whatever, like don't even bother. The Valve Index remains among people who are developing VR games. It seems like it is the super majority. And that is not accessible to most people who are playing games. And it seems like most of the people using it remain the people who are trying to make games or people who are having these like interactive experiences on platforms like VRChat. The thing that is best about VR technology right now today is solely the level of real human interaction you get between people using it, to the point that the things I'm encountering in VRChat now are the same like feeling that I got in the pre-enshittified internet when I'd go hang out in like a bespoke chat room that someone made on an HTML site with like clever scripting with like 10 other people.
Right. Well, like, because much like the early internets, right, there is quite a large technological barrier that prevents just the masses from coming in there, right?
Exactly.
So it's people who are wealthy enough or technologically advanced enough to have VR equipment and know how to set it up and use it and configure it properly. And those are people who want to be there.
Very analogous to the people who had a 486, had a modem, and were willing to put the effort to learn and make it work.
There's not enough of those people for anyone to come in and try to like leech them for money, right? And two, those people go into these spaces and they're just there, nobody's there with some ulterior motive, right? So it's not even the fact that it is VR. It could have been something that wasn't VR, that was just like text only, right? It's because of these other factors that's just created a digital space where there's no extrinsic motivations. Yet, as soon as VR is, I think it's actually far away, which is probably a good thing to defend the community. But once the technology is more accessible, more affordable, right, then someone will come in and they'll monetize the VR land the same way they did to the web land.
But yeah, the three attributes you just raised, that is exactly what I'm encountering in there. And
it has nothing to do with like the technology itself of like, we've made the glasses better.
Well, it has to do with what is the frontier of a technology that purely intrinsically motivated people prioritize interacting with it above many of their other hobbies. And the early internet was like that. Like, people who used the internet, that was seen as like a weird hobby when I was young. Like, oh, what do? I spend my time on the internet? What? That's a weird fucking nerdy thing to do. Like, that's how it was. And
well, I think the thing is that even the people who are going on the commercialized, monetized spaces, right? It's like all anyone is really looking for is, human connection, probably with sex, right? At least, some people.
The sex is there. Right? It is less than I expected.
Right, but it's mostly the connection, right? Which could be a sexual connection, but it's always a just a human connection.
So again,
right?
Think about that. The early internet, there was nothing on the internet but other people typing at you or looking at what someone else typed. Like it was it's this deep human connection. And I remember when I first got on the internet and I interacted with another person, it felt like fucking magic because it was, this is a long time ago. And VR is the place where that exact same magic is happening right now.
Well, it's a place, every place is, the human connection's happening in all the places. The difference is that in the VR, it just so happens in that one application. There are other applications where that's happening.
Yeah.
It's just, like you can go to for example, a really old MMO, for an example, right?
Oh, yeah.
And find an old MMO, like I think somewhat like there's people running the Realm, like New Realm or something.
I was thinking, the Realm's still around. I was thinking about buying an account.
Like a new thing or something. Anyway, the point is, if you just go, it's like there's nothing technologically advanced about that. It's just a space where people can connect with each other, and capitalism has not entered into the space, and the space exists still. And so, right?
Okay, I could get a month of access to the Realm, the same fucking place I hung out in like 1997, for $4.49 a month.
I think there's like a new thing. I forget. I'll look it up.
Well, Sierra, what was originally Sierra Online's The Realm.
Maybe it was a different MMO that has like a new that came back.
Oh my God, they even have the same domain. Andy, I feel like I should go in there and talk to people, but that's an aside. But my review of VRChat, like I'm not going to like current VR technology. Like if you spend money, you can have studio quality motion capture. Like we have professional motion capture, full body tracking now. That is not something a normal person is going to buy. That was actually very expensive, but we're using it a lot. But I would say the technology stack that consists of hobbyist accessible full body tracking like Slime VR and Mokopi type stuff, plus a Valve Index, plus VRChat, like that technology platform is way above the line of an extreme level of human connection that has never existed outside of the real world before. I think that is well above the line of being valuable and worth interrogating, experiencing, and investing in. However, making games, like regular old games, using that same VR technology, we are so far away from that. I would never invest in making like a VR game like Half-Life Alyx, ever. But the human connection part is like, we've been doing a lot of formal experimentation for the last several months, and holy shit, do you remember that time when we were at UberCon and convention security came into the room to see what everyone was screaming about, and we were just playing some like The Sword or Inheritance or something, like a LARP in Burning Wheel? It's like that. Like the level of intensity of experience you can get with current level tech just on that platform as is way more than people realize until they experience it.
I mean, you can get that without the VR. It just so happens, just because of other factors, that is a community that you know about where that is happening. There are
I'm talking about the technology, like the human interaction at a distance. I don't think
technology matters that much. I think that same feeling happens in boring old text chat rooms and IRC chats. That happens in Discord.
I think you're underestimating the intensity.
Chatting.
I think you're vastly underestimating the intensity of having additional channels of the interaction. Text is magical. Text and voice is like an order of magnitude more magical. Video added yet another channel to it.
I guess if you lack imagination, maybe you need more.
No, it's not about that. I mean, you've never tried any of this stuff, so you don't know what it's like.
I don't think it's necessary.
I think it provides something.
I think if you just took the same exact people that were on VRChat and you just replaced it all with IRC, that it would be the same people connecting in the same meaningful ways.
I don't think they would be the same meaningful ways, and I don't think they would be nearly as deep. This adds a dimension. It adds a profound dimension.
I think you're just trying to justify your VR investment in levers.
No, not really. We're experimenting for a reason. The level of intensity you can get role playing in there is something to the point that it does something that even in person, full featured LARPing cannot do, even with current tech. All right, we can jump into things of the day. Let's move my little marker. But anyway, things of the day. Not a game or anything like a game, but I saw this documentary on Spark. It's only about 3 months old. It's just free on YouTube. You can just watch it. I was really into space as a kid, so I know a lot about the Mercury program, the Gemini program, the Apollo program, the Space Shuttle program. But this video is interesting because it's a pretty deep dive over the course of an hour into the Gemini program specifically, with a lot of extremely high quality archival footage. But what's fascinating about it is that it's not focused so much on the technology or like all the things that a lot of the things I've seen about the Gemini program focus on. It is focused on the absolute insanity of the danger of the Gemini program.
There is to know about the Gemini program.
Well, the Mercury. So the way I would describe it, the Mercury program was
also crazy.
Mercury was as insane as, what if we put a human on the end of an artillery shell and shot it to another continent? Like, Mercury was basically a glorified artillery shell.
You go to the circus and they're like human cannibal, and it's like, it's, right.
The Mercury program was basically that. Gemini was, all right, now let's put 2 people in that artillery shell, and while they're in the air, have them open the door and look outside into space and like see if they can get out of the capsule and back in.
If you go in Queens, New York, where we live, if you go to Flushing Corona Park, to the Science Center, outside the Science Center, they have like this little mini golf course.
Yep.
And in the mini golf course, they've got normal mini golf stuff, and they also have, a rocket from Gemini and a rocket from the Mercury program. Like leftover, like actual rocket that they were refurbished like 20 years ago, so they're in pretty good shape. And it's like, you just look at it, right? It's like, it's one thing you watch a video about it, right? And you understand conceptually some guy sat on top of a bomb, right? Okay, like a complete nut. But when you actually look at the rocket, like sitting there, and you look at the part where the person goes, and you see the actual size of it, like in person, right in front of you.
When I'm saying put a human in an artillery shell, like
playing mini golf, and the hole is under the rocket where the fire comes out if it works properly. And this is a thing that we did, and it worked more than once somehow.
Yep. Of all the space programs during that era, the Gemini program was probably the most insanely dangerous of anything we did as the nation of the United States. It is amazing Gemini worked.
Well, it was the most
to 2 guys. Dangerous to 2 guys.
Two guys. There are a lot of things we've done that are dangerous to a lot of people and that have a far left safety mechanisms.
Yep, like capitalism. But I digress. So you got a thing of the day?
Yeah, well, I think over time, when web games have really advanced quite a bit, right? It started out as just like some crappy old Flash games, right? And now it's like, this like WebGL, you can do full-on 3D games in your browser. There's nothing stopping anyone from doing it. People just tend not to do that because, like, if you're going to put in the effort to make a 3D game, why are you just letting someone go to a website and just play it in their browser? It's not the ideal experience, especially on a PC. It's like capturing your mouse and full screening and lowering the resolution.
Unless you're making it for intrinsic motivation as opposed to extrinsic motivation.
Sure. But here, somebody actually went through and made an extremely high quality 3D web game. You just visit the site and play the game. It's a very short game. It's in a very limited space. Which, what do you expect for something you just go and play for free with no ads, no account, no nothing? But the thing that's really fascinating about this game is it's pretty much just like do 5 like fetch quests, the end, right? And explore this fun space we made with this amazing art style. And that's all there is to it. But the other people playing the game, you can't talk to them or like wave at them or emote or anything, but you still see the other people playing the game in the same space, right? At least, I don't know if it's everyone playing the game, but it's some people. And it's like, you can like try to follow someone to figure out where to go. Or like, I guess you can like try to jump because one thing you can do is jump. So like if you get near someone, you could try to like communicate by jumping, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. But it really adds something to the.
Well, think of in Journey when people would play that, like they developed this language of like running around someone in a circle and then jumping to try to get them to follow you.
Yeah. But yeah, I beat the game. It didn't take very long. It's called Messenger, and there's no reason not to play this free game that will take you just a few minutes. That is probably the best free web browser game
Yeah.
that I've ever seen.
In the meta moment, the GeekNights Book Club book. Let me see if the website is up to date. Is I Who Have Never Known Men. We'll probably do the show in about a month to give you time to read it. I know Scott already read it. I've started reading it. It's short. I feel
it's
like
about a person who hasn't known any men ever, and
it's about the world we live in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll have a lot to say. And don't forget, we will in the near future we will also be doing an episode about, since we talked about Running Man, the novel by Richard Bachman by Stephen King. We're gonna also talk about the movie The Running Man starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, and then the new Running Man that is actually more based on the book. Even though, as we pointed out in the book club episode, they're all still about the same thing.
Yeah. Well, only one of them. There's only three, and only one of them's the oddball, which is the.
But even the oddball is still about the same thing. Like it's the kind of like new Evangelion versus old Evangelion. Radically different things happen, but they're still the same fundamental interrogation, as all good sci-fi is. Otherwise, we're going to be at
PAX Unplugged.
We're going to be at PAX Unplugged doing not one but two things on Saturday at like 1:30 p.m. I think we'll post it. We have the schedule posted. We will be doing a talk that is a version of what we're going to talk about today on Geek Nights. We're getting our thoughts together for this talk on messing up the rules. And then on Saturday night from like 10 to midnight in the Learn and Play room, we're going to be teaching a group of people how to play Citadels. And then we're going to teach that group of people the broken, degenerate, the Scott protocol for being perfect and undefeatable at that game.
Or the cheating protocol? Or
I think we teach them both. We teach them the cheating protocol and the winning
cheating protocol is more of a warning. It doesn't help you win. It helps you not lose to...
Maybe a third of the way through, we interrupt everyone and we tell them about the cheating method, and then see if they change their behavior or if anyone had been cheating that way up to that point. Arguably, it's not even cheating. And then
it's not.
And then we interrupt them again two-thirds
the way
through.
You sure didn't like it when I did it.
Well, here's the thing. I did not like it as my persona of the person playing the game to win, but as Rim, person who likes to think about games, I very much liked it because that was an experience. As one iteration of this game went through so many permutations of, we have found every possible degenerate way to fuck this game over. We learned a lot about game design over the course of that next hour and a half. But Citadels is real fun. And honestly, if you're at PAX Unplugged, you should try to come to that event because it's going to be a bunch of people who are at PAX Unplugged and want to spend their Saturday night playing a game like Citadels. That's going to be a fun crowd, I think. I also think it'll fill. That's my prediction. So I think you want to get there like 10 minutes early if you think you want to do it, because I bet it'll fill. That room only seats like 70-ish people, I want to say.
Most Learn and Plays we've done it filled, and maybe a nighttime special one, I think, especially because PAX Unplugged itself is filling.
Yeah.
So.
I think a lot of things are going to fill.
MagFest is coming up soon, and is it sold out yet? I have heard rumor that it may sell out in the near. Like demand is like, good luck getting a hotel room, but I guess you can still buy a badge today.
Yes, badges are still for sale right now.
But they might not be for long. It's November, December, January. It's coming up soon anyway. If you're planning to go, you should have already made plans and already bought the badge. So.
Yep. You'll see on the website, it talks about how at-door badges decrease in price as the con goes on. There will not be at-door badges. I am confident
there won't.
I am confident there will not be at-door badges. However, I am not confident that air travel will still be working in the United States when MagFest happens because of the shutdown. So I would advise, if you were planning to go to the MagFest, plan a route to the MagFest that does not involve the airplane.
Really, I think MagFest, as amazing as MagFest is,
It drives an East Coast crowd, honestly.
I do not think it is worth flying. If you're far away enough from MagFest, you should only be flying there if
you're like us, if you're doing like 6 panels or something.
If you're a band that's performing at MagFest or something like that, or you're demoing even if you're demoing your game in the MIVs or something. I
like PAX West, but if I wasn't doing the things I'm doing, I would not fly to PAX West every year.
Yeah, it's even if MagFest had no flaw, I would still say don't fly to it, even if airplanes are working perfectly.
A counterpoint, though, I would say that of all the game adjacent nerd cons out there, MagFest has the most unique special sauce of all of there's nothing else quite like MagFest.
It would be okay to fly to MagFest if it was a multi-purpose trip. If you're flying just for MagFest, if you're flying for MagFest and East Coast area biz, okay. Obviously, that makes sense.
Well, you can't go see the East Wing of the White House because it's gone.
Well, you couldn't see it before anyways.
You can see it from the outside.
Sure. You can see plenty of other things in, all parts. Anyway.
Yep. All right, let's just get into the main bit. So, one thing, we'll talk about tabletop games first, because as soon as we talk about video games, I feel like that is one of the first big dichotomies.
The main difference when you're talking about rules is that in a video game, arguably, if you're just treating the video game on its own, not putting it in the context of a tournament or in the context of speedrunning or in the context of an esports, right? If you're just looking at a video game on its own, the code of the game is the rules. And therefore, as long as you're not cheating, trying to modify the game with patches or mods or hacks or who knows what, right? You're not breaking the rules, right? You're not getting the rules wrong. You can't get the rules wrong unless, I guess, the computer freaks out.
Now, a board game could have some of that situation too, because I think the question here is, the category is based on what enforces the rules and or what facilitates the basic operation of the game. Case in point, a tabletop game that involves flicking. The physical nature of the board is enforcing some of the rules of the game naturally itself, but there might be a rule about how you're allowed to flick. In that case, the rules can only describe the nature of the flicking. The humans have to enforce it, because I can think of no cardboard mechanism on Earth that will enforce the nature of the flick.
Right. So, in a video game, the source code of the game, the hardware, the software, right, is physically enforcing all rules at all times, right? And it's describing the rules and enforcing. With a board game, you have words on paper that could be misinterpreted, that could be flawed, that could be broken. You have humans who read them, who can misinterpret them, or, maybe they're translated. And then the humans themselves have to decide to enforce them as in whatever way they understand them, or maybe they do understand them and make other decisions, or humans miss something by accident because they're flawed. They're not perfect computers. So it's like this whole nother world once you get into outside. It's the same for sports too, right? Sport is effectively tabletop games, right? Where it's there's officials and there isn't a computer just doing everything. We're trying to introduce more computers to judge sports.
But also look at tabletop. Serious heavy tabletop play introduces referees, and even esports introduce refereeing as a concept. But then in sports, refereeing is so hard that we're introducing computers to make the refereeing, because the referees are basically judges. They have to decide. Humans are better at that than a lot of technology in some regards, but humans are way worse than that in other regards. 2 examples would be race walking. Humans can't enforce it, but technology could perfectly enforce it. Or ice hockey, the blue line. The video can enforce it, but even the video still requires, the way we do it today, a human to make the ultimate decision based on...
because the way they could have done it differently.
They could have done it differently, but they don't.
All right, so ways the rules can be gotten wrong, right? At least in video game, is if there's a bug or a glitch, and it's like if they patch it, then it's like, well, okay, it's now fixed. But if they don't, it's like, well, that is the rule because that's right. And the only way you could change the rules would be to have an outside structure around the video game. Like, all right, we're having a Mario Kart DS tournament, no snaking. And then humans watch and say, you snaked, you're disqualified, whatever, right? You need to have some outside rule. Tabletop games, we got and sports and anything that's not a pure video game, tons of ways to get the rule wrong, right? Number one is if just nobody fucking knows what the rule is.
Which I think we start with because I think that is the most, I think a lot of people, like a lot, even deep tabletop enthusiasts, play games wrong, get things wrong, never even notice.
In order to play by the rules, the first thing you got to do is know the rules. And you might try to read the rules, and there could be, like, maybe you missed something. Maybe everyone missed something. Maybe it's just written really poorly. Maybe the rules, like, are just not just written poorly, but actually the game is designed poorly. And even if you call the designer on the phone or have them come in and teach you the game, there are just glaring holes in the rules and unexplained, ungovernable situations because the rules are just flawed heavily. And it's like, well, what do I do in this situation? And the game designer is like, I didn't consider what would happen in that situation. I don't know what would happen. And it's just a big question mark. And no one knows what the boundaries are.
But I also think there's definitely some significant time to be spent talking about how people often don't care if they get the rules right and play games wrong forever. I mean, I've definitely
on purpose.
Yeah, but I think by accident, I have definitely played games many, many times and like gotten the same rule wrong every time for a long time until someone corrected me. But I think there are some people, when corrected, don't give a shit. And then other people care a lot. Like if I found out I'm playing a game wrong, in my mind, that kind of invalidates every previous game of that thing I've ever played, and I kind of treat it as a brand new game from that point forward. But I don't think most people treat games that way, and I have definitely encountered people who, if it is told to them that they're playing a game wrong, like when we were hanging out with some unnamed acquaintances a long time ago, and we were playing a tabletop game, and those people were not following the rules that we had all agreed to, and when you called them out on it, they got really mad at you for being a buzzkill and trying to, like, even talk about the rules in a game. Like, why do you care so much?
Because I want to play the game correctly?
Same thing happened at RIT with fucking Settlers of Catan. When they taught me Settlers, they taught me the robber worked a certain way. And then when I finally read the rules one day, I found out that was just completely made up. So when I played with them again, I followed the real rules, and I learned that they didn't know the real rules. And when this came up, their response was, we don't like that, so we're kicking you out of our game and we won't play with you anymore.
Okay, fine, bye.
Those people were bad people, so I don't regret that.
I think you're right. So I think you got to divide the conversation, right, into ways to get the rules wrong, and then separately remedies for what happens when you get the rules right. So you're going in the remedy realm, and I'm still here trying to talk about different ways to get the rules wrong. So ways to get the rules wrong. A, nobody knows the rule. You might not. It's arguable that you didn't get it wrong, but you don't know that you got it right. It's undefined. No one knows, and you can't get an answer. Right? Okay. The second possibility, the rules are literally impossible to be correct. I can't think of a real example. Because, most games I've played at least it'd be really bad for a game to have this, but it is possible to write game rules with a literal paradox, right? To where it's like, yes, if you correctly follow rule A, you must break rule B, but if you correctly follow rule B, you therefore must break rule A. We intentionally or so stupidly,
I think,
made game rules with a literal paradox that you cannot follow all the rules in the game simultaneously.
I think ground floor, one of the buildings had such a paradox, and I think the reason we have not encountered this and struggled to come up with examples is that we kind of just stopped playing Kickstarter games.
Yeah. But, you could imagine something like, a rule in the book is like, you can never take green except on a Tuesday. And then you have a card that's like, if it is Tuesday, take green, right? And normally most games with cards have a special rule in the rule book that says cards always override the default rules. But if this game didn't have that special line in it, then you'd have a paradox because you have a card that's telling you to break a rule in the rule book.
Yep.
Right? So that can happen. Obviously, the most common thing is accidentally making a mistake, right? It's like, the rules, everyone knows them, right? But because it's a tabletop game, because it's the real world, you accidentally do something that is not in line with the rules. You draw an extra card.
Yep.
Because
you know how many times I played Dominion and I draw one too many cards, like, shit, and I gotta like remedy that. Like that happens commonly. And I think there's definitely a discussion to be had around some game mechanics make it easier or less easy to make such mistakes.
Right. Oh, you forgot that in the special circumstance that's kind of rare, you have to pay an extra $1, and you haven't been paying the extra $1 all game, and it added up to like $3.
Yep.
Right? You knew the rule, but it's such a weird circumstance that it happens in, and you just missed it because it's easy to miss, and there's not a computer taking care of it for you.
Yep. So I think it comes down to there's a discussion of how easy is it to make the mistake and what are the things that cause the mistake to happen. Like Puerto Rico always has the example of, there's a thing you have to count to do a thing with the colonists.
That's a different situation.
Oh, I'm not talking about the remedies yet. I'm not. Forget the remedy. Pretend the remedy doesn't exist.
Since the game has rules written that say what if you forget, because there's a remedy, you're not. It's not
I agree.
Technically
but I know because I remember reading this. When the game was designed, that remedy was not there, and it was noticed in playtesting that there was one rule people kept fucking up, and I think it's because it is a rule that there is a time window to count a thing, and the answer to that count is necessary to do another thing later in the game. If you forget to count it before the game state changes, there is no way to figure out what that count would have been. So you have to test the state of the game at point A, and then later use the results of that test. Like that is an example of a mechanic that is very easy to fuck up because there is a limited time window to do the thing, and nothing forces you to do the thing because the thing that would force you to do the thing happens later. Like that's what I'm getting at. Forget the remedy. I'm talking about.
It's also right. It's also there's a certain pattern to the game, right? Where it's like it's like, okay, first this, then that, and then you loop. And it's like if there's an exception where it's like, this loop we have to do something different than the other loops, it becomes. It's out of the pattern. It's different. It's harder to remember to do that, right? It's like, even in something like, you think about El Grande where it's like play 3, score, right? Yep. The game has designs in it such that you can't really forget the scoring round is every 3. Yep. But if it was designed differently, you might be like 3, 4, 5. Oops, forgot to score on 3.
And I've noticed... broadly trying newer games out of like random tabletop, and again especially like things that were kickstarted in some fashion, I find games for cost reasons seem to include less and less of those like extra bits that, like El Grande, you don't need that whole section on the board to keep track of what to score when, but having that is a very valuable tool, and I think more games need to include those kinds of tools, and I think they're being left out of game design for a bunch of reasons.
I don't know. But yeah, and then of course the other way to get rules wrong is on purpose, either because the people that are playing have decided to change the rule for better or worse, which obviously we would argue means you're playing a different game, but it does, regardless, you are not following the rules of the original game for a reason.
Yep.
Or somebody is cheating on purpose or by accident. I guess if cheating by accident, I guess, is hard to do because we already talked about you mess up the rules by accident.
I think we can
technically cheating, but it's like when there's intent, it's like a different realm.
We can rely on actually the legal principles where intent matters a lot. Like if you kill someone but you were not trying to and intending to. It is a
it's
different
really semantic,
situation,
right? It's like, because like we could argue that like, yeah, any breaking of the rules is cheating. It's like, okay, but what if someone accidentally breaks the rules against their own interest? It's like they're losing because they forgot the rule to collect.
But I do think they are
$1
materially distinct. If someone makes a mistake, that is even though mechanically it causes the same result, it is a fundamentally different situation for a lot of reasons. I think there's a lot we could talk about around that. Like, one thing I know people have done, well, say this is more for the remedies side, but we've done this before in games where we encounter that someone has made a mistake that was harmful to them. We usually all agree to call it out like, hey, I messed up. I forgot to take my bonus income 2 rounds ago.
I didn't collect 200 every time I passed go.
So fuck it.
Guys.
That's just my punishment is I just don't have that money, and that sucks for me. And I know we've been in games where someone says, I accidentally had too many cards in my hand, so I am going to reshuffle my hand and discard one at random. That's the best remedy I can come up with.
And then the final way that you can get rules wrong is when the rules on purpose, right, have some sort of interpretation to them. They leave room for interpretation intentionally, right? This happens most often in sports, especially with things like penalties, right? It's like, was that holding? Was that hooking? And then you have referees, and it's like the referees might see it and say, I'll let it go for who knows how many reasons, or they might miss it, or they might see it and they don't decide to let it go. They actually see it and they decide that within the bounds of the rules that isn't actually a hooking or whatever it is, a holding. And then someone else sees it maybe from a different angle, or they experiences it as a player and they say, yes, it was, ref, you didn't see it right. And it's like, in those cases, even with the strictest interpretations, maybe the rule is wrong, right? You didn't get the correct judgment did not occur.
Total aside, I think for games that you and I know really well, I think we would be phenomenal referees.
Yeah, of course.
Imagine being a referee of Tigris and Euphrates, and your job.
I would be the strictest by the book referee.
Yep, I'd be that kind of. I would love to be like, go to the crowd and be like, Scott had too many tiles in his hand. Therefore, to remedy this, Scott will have 3 tiles removed from his hand for the next round. Or I might say, the game is forfeit. We have to start a new game.
Yeah. I think, but that's the thing is when games like you say Tigris and Euphrates, that game doesn't have any rules that leave room for a referee to judge, right? The way that a referee can, even balls and strikes, the actual definition doesn't leave. This is why it's so contentious with balls and strikes in baseball, because that rule actually is written in a way that does not leave much room for interpretation. It's like, it's between your knees and your right, but here's the plate. It's like we can see where the ball was in space, location wise, and that's the rule. Yet you're letting a human judge it with their eye, adding this imprecision to it. Whereas something like a tripping call or a goalie interference call, the definition of the rule isn't such straight lines.
So
in and out in tennis.
Thinking about that a lot. Like a game with T&E, there are no hard remedies other than playing again. Like if you fuck up, the only hard remedy or intrinsic remedy.
But you don't have a soft rule, so you don't need a remedy because there's no flaws in the.
Well, you still need a remedy because think about people playing a game of T&E and they're an hour in and a mistake is made and people are figuring out how or if should we proceed playing the game now that we know something has been fucked up. And think like if it were, say this was the national championship of Tigris and Euphrates, there's $1 million pot on the line. The remedy
you got to replay or disqualify everybody.
Yep. Or, but where interpretation comes in is a skilled referee. Generally, I think one of their main values is that they can judge in a way that a less experienced person could not how material the breach of the rules was. So think of a case of Tigris and Euphrates. I can imagine technical rule breakings that as a referee, knowing everything, having watched the entire game, I could come up with a reasonable enough remedy or explanation to where the game could proceed to have not materially impacted the outcome. But the only way to do that's not in the rules of the game. That's already extrinsic, but that requires a deep expertise of the game's rules, how the game progresses, kind of like how people are hockey referees were almost always hockey players because they need that context to figure out if something is material or not. And depending on the kind of competition, materiality may matter a lot. A professional tournament, the bar is a lot lower before it's material, but casual play with your friends, the bar is a lot higher. You can often consensually agree on a remedy that lets you proceed because it doesn't matter that much.
Usually if the stakes are very high, then the tournament rules govern every possible scenario that can happen.
Many tournament rules, even Magic rules, I have read them because we had to deal with that at Kineticon.
As they keep finding out new things, a game a tournament that's been held more often, when there's more play over time, people encounter more situations and over time edit the rules to accommodate for all of those.
But there are many situations where referees have some leeway and discretion. And I think that is
depending
common
on the game.
But in Magic, there are situations where the referees have some leeway and discretion in real tournaments.
Yeah, judging things like bad sportsmanship, you could have discretion.
But I think there's a lot of leeway for that. And I think where those boundaries are is a really interesting conversation.
Yeah, but I think it's generally in sports that you would have the rules where things are not defined. Right? In any board game, the game itself would be defined extremely clearly. It's just really because you're in a tournament and the stakes, you have extra rules that are defining the human situation that would.
I think that also leads to, for most tabletop games, the rules should be designed well enough to make it unlikely for players to make mistakes, to make it easy to spot when a player has made a mistake, to make it easy to correct a mistake before it is irrevocably recorded in the state of the game. And this is where we get into mechanics like Roll for the Galaxy, where you're rolling dice behind a screen. Forget cheating. No other player can see what you're doing, so there are fewer eyes keeping track of, did you follow the rules?
Now, the final situation here. Right. I think we did a news story on this a while ago, or I don't remember.
The video game situation?
No, it's a Magic situation. What happens if the rules are being followed to a T, right? Everyone knows the rules. There's no dispute on the rules. Everyone follows the rules. But the rules themselves are unjust, right? So the example is that person who went to a Magic tournament and they used snow-covered lands in their deck, which were technically not allowed, but it's like the rules say you can't use them and therefore disqualified, but there is no way they could have made a difference. Zero. They were just real lands.
That's just what I was getting to earlier about the judge. If you have a referee of some kind, there's two kinds of referees. There's the bot referee, whose sole job is to enforce the rules explicitly as written, and if they cannot do so, the game has crashed. And then there are referees who are expected to, if there is a situation that requires human judgment, they can effectively overrule the rules as written to make the game work the way everyone intended.
No. A judge, you can't overrule the rules, right? In that case, the judge did what they had to do, right? And
I think you can. And there are many situations in gaming where you
in
could.
Actual law, a lawyer.
I think that has a place in tabletop games too.
I don't think that has a place in tabletop games. If the actual rules themselves are wrong, it's like a judge is not there to edit the rules of the game in the designer's place, right? That's not the place of the judge, right? It's not like the actual judges in the real world where, they're deciding what the Constitution means. Everyone knows what the rules of the game are. There isn't any leeway there for interpretation.
However, I think in that situation,
the judge is there because the players can't know every rule or might be in dispute with each other about the rules, and you need someone who is an absolute authority who does know absolutely everything.
So I would have loved to see in that situation, that referee should have had the option to, like in hockey when they call Toronto, call Providence, a special hotline, and be like, here's the situation.
and they'd say the rule is this.
No, I would be 100% okay if they said that, you know what? Fuck it. That situation was fine. Ex post facto, done. Ruling.
Right. But I think you need to, you need someone who, not just a judge on the scene, you need the actual rules to be changed.
Yes.
Right?
Well, this I think gets into, I think this is a section.
If the people in charge of the rules, if the game designer, or in the case of Magic, whoever the people at WotC who write the tournament rules or whatever, if they don't edit the rules, then the judge's hands are tied, right?
Well, this gets into the discussion of...
can only operate within, right, the bounds that the rules allow them to judge.
So this gets into the discussion of where are and should be and how defined are the roles of judges and referees, because you can define them very differently in different games, and all these different things a referee or a judge could do can serve different purposes. In casual play, we do tend to do all those things. Like, groups will usually form a consensus, make an executive decision, appeal to a third party.
It doesn't matter. Who cares?
Yeah, but I know we care. When we encounter a rules situation that we can't resolve, what's the first thing we do? We look for official guidance from the designer.
Yep,
if we can't find that, we look for official guidance from the publisher. If we can't find that, we read unofficial guidance from like Board Game Geek, but we don't necessarily trust it. We just read it to see what other people said, and then we make our own decision, which might be fuck this game forever, or it might be this is the rule that makes sense. We will assume this henceforth. But usually I found...
asterisk on this game.
But I have found... Our group, personally, if we encounter that situation, we will only remedy the game we are playing right now. And I find we usually just will never play that game again. Because if the rules aren't rock solid, that tabletop game is not good enough for me.
Right. It's like, if you didn't put enough... If you're, as a game designer, or sadly sometimes translator, right? not the designer's fault, didn't put enough work in to create a rock solid game, why am I going to spend my time to play your game, or why am I going to fix your game? It's like, I'll just design my own game.
I mean, there's a lot of games that we could talk about on GeekNights where I read the rules and decide this game is probably not good based on that alone. We're not even going to bother playing it.
Yeah, and it's like, and if I'm playing a game and I'm going to pass judgment on the game, well, if I modify the rules, right, it's like, how is that even fair to like the original designer? If I'm saying, this game was great, even if I say it was great, or if it's like, but maybe it actually isn't great, and now I'm lying to everyone because actually the game that I played was like this modified version, right? And the original game is not nearly as good as what I said. Right? It's like, I have to judge the game as it is. I can't be like, imagine if I'm like, Star Wars Phantom Menace, best movie, Oscar winner, great movie, and I watch like the Phantom edit. Right? It's like, you can't be doing that. It's like, that's not a fair thing to do.
Well, it is fair as long as you disclose it.
Sure, right? But it's like, you have to be honest about what's going on in the situation, right? You can't.
Yep. But I just find generally, if I read the rules to a game and do not feel like I can 100% perform those rules, I have found that is a very, very good sign that the game is bad.
Yeah.
Like the exceptions to that are so rare, they're not worth mentioning.
Yeah. And basically the only two ways that a game gets good, right, is the designer is just really thorough and very good and did a good job, or designers or whoever.
Or they do patches based on feedback.
Right. Or B, a game is old. When a game is old and played a lot, naturally over time, as long as there is even if there isn't a central authority, like if the central authority for that originally made the game like goes away. Think about like
nobody is confused about the rules of chess. Nobody. Right. Zero people are confused about the rules of chess.
Like, there was no original authority on chess necessarily, right? But eventually it's like, well, people made one.
Yep.
Right? That came later. The game is older than the authority. They're like, shit, we need to manage this and set things straight. And so they did. Right?
Yep. And they made a lot of arbitrary decisions along the way.
They realized like, that's a thing. And they made changes, right, to handle situations as they arose. It's like in ice hockey, our favorite example, it's like people were doing all kinds of shenanigans, and like they would edit the rules of ice hockey. Like, yeah, someone did a shenanigan yesterday. We got to change the rules.
You can't literally build a wall of ice in front of the goal and then skate away from it.
Right, and it's like, so over time,
you can't just punch a guy out. You can't just punch a guy in the face and take the puck from him.
Right. They figure these things out over time, and now they need a lot. They still change the rules, but much less than they needed to in the past, much less drastically, because we figured out all these problems with time and people playing and caring and managing.
Now, speaking about justice, because briefly, if we're talking, forget board games, if we're talking about video games, that's this interesting situation where if the code is the rules and you're not in a tournament, like you're playing Overwatch, because I play Overwatch a lot. There's a situation that happened not that long ago. So you're playing Overwatch competitively, but not in a tournament. No referees, like the game is being run by the Blizzard servers. And there was a situation where if you did it right, May, one of the characters, could get outside the map. And once you're outside the map, you can start shooting people from out there and they can't do anything to you. You're invincible. You can't lose. You can't, it was this crazy bug.
I'm sure they patched that shit quickly.
They did. But until it was patched, on one hand, it was not cheating to do that while you were playing because they have not updated the code, nor have they even issued a formal statement saying that is cheating. So, perfectly okay to do. But on the other hand, if I had the ability to kick someone out of a match before doing that, I would, because justice-wise and gameplay-wise, obviously, that sucks and is broken. And
I think you just don't play until it's fixed.
The way it ended up going down is if someone did it, everyone else in the server would just stop playing. Like they just stand there, like, well, you ruined the game for us. Fuck you.
But I think they do have a reporting system, right? So
yeah, but I don't think they should be able to ban someone from Overwatch for doing something like that before it's patched, even if other people report them.
Right. Even if I'd say, even in the case where they put out like an announcement, right? Like a blog post or a tweets or whatever.
What if I'm playing Overwatch and I didn't see it because I'm just playing Overwatch?
Yeah, it's like even if they put an in-game announcement, it's like someone might not see it or might not read it.
That's like if you're driving 50 miles an hour, you get pulled over and they say, hey, the speed limit here is 10, and there was no sign. They built the sign on the road behind you after you passed the spot. Like, you should not be able to get a speeding ticket in that situation.
I think also what should happen, honestly, is if people are actually seriously competitive and playing to win, everyone should just be doing that. And it should not become this game of like sniping out of bounds.
And that is actually something I've enjoyed.
Until the time at which it's fixed, it should just be out of bounds sniper battle. Everyone's out of bounds.
I mean, I remember when the P90 got added to Counter-Strike, and it wasn't breaking the rules. It was just like so fucking overpowered and broken.
Right.
But the people who had servers that were like, no one's allowed to use the P90. No, fuck that. The real answer was, all right, until they fix this, literally everybody's using the P90.
Right. Well, I mean, think about it like this. Let's say pulling your goalie in hockey doesn't work that well.
Yep.
Right? But let's say it did. Let's say it worked really well, right? Then people are just doing it constantly.
There was a time when that was true in overtime. That's why they changed the rule. In hockey, in NHL hockey, in regular season, if you tie a game and go into overtime, instead of getting 2 points for winning and 0 points for losing, both teams get a point and then they play overtime to decide who gets the extra point. However, if you pull your goalie during that overtime and you lose the game, you forfeit the extra point. And the only reason they did that is because a strategy emerged. It was a really good idea to always pull your goalie in overtime to go for the extra point, to the point that every team was doing it constantly, and they added the rule to stop that shit.
Right, but that's the right thing to happen. That's exactly how it should play out. Is they should if there's a rule that you could use, that's the best strategy, even if it has negative effects on the game or whatever. It doesn't matter. That's the rule.
Yep.
Everyone's
The listener actually jumped in. Exactly. That would be blaming the player for the game designer's laziness.
Exactly. Someone watched. That's the one listener who watched all the GeekNights. Right?
They have been listening to GeekNights since the year 2005?
Too long.
Early? Goddamn. Yeah, since the 2000s. So at least since 2009.
I'm sorry to the listener. You made a big mistake.
Now, on that note, we should probably wrap up because one, we've gone long, and two, I'm about to play Burning Wheel. I have just enough time to eat dinner, and we're playing Burning Wheel.
Okay.